guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new entitled people content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled, "Neighbor built an illegal spite fence next to the property line to ruin my view." I moved to California in my early 40s. Although I had grew up on the East Coast, I could not help but admire California's beauty and the mountains that were surrounded by a pink sunset every morning. Plus, my kids were grown now, so we had a little bit more freedom to move around and travel as we so pleased. My husband and I ended up purchasing a gorgeous home in Northern California. It was nestled in a smaller neighborhood that was in a beautiful mountain range. We were surrounded by big, beautiful trees, a flowing creek, and the beautiful environment that Mother Nature had to offer. Everything seemed so peaceful. Well, until we met one of new neighbors. Right off the bat, she was not exactly the friendliest. Although she spoke to us and introduced herself to us, she was noticeably short with her words. She also made a comment about how so many people were finding out about this small, beautiful area. I was not sure if that was just a general observation, or if she was throwing a petty comment our way because we were the new people of the neighborhood. Regardless, we still enjoyed the neighborhood and started planning to do some small renovations to our property. The house was in fairly good shape, but there were just some small details that we had wanted to change. One of the things that we had wanted to add was a small cabin on our property. The purpose of the cabin was to serve as sort of a guest house. A cabin was a lot smaller than a regular house, but I still wanted to go about it the right way. We made sure we had a lot of the right permits, approvals, and legal documentation to avoid any trouble. But unfortunately, that does not protect us against trouble from neighbors. When our neighbor saw construction works and city workers coming over to approve permits and whatnot, she immediately asked us what we were doing. Although I found it odd, she had such a concern for what we were doing. I just ignored it and told her we planned to put a small cabin on the right side of our yard. "Oh, so right next to my house?" she complained and rolled her eyes at us. While the cabin would be near her property, it was still well within our property lines. I let her know that it would not be an issue and that we were planning to build the cabin in a way that would not get in anyone's way or view. Of course, she did not want to hear any of this, so trying to talk to her was just a lost cause. We ended up going through with our plans to build the small cabin. It was small, but it was beautiful, and it really fit in with the design of the home and the mountains. It also met all coding requirements and city requirements, so everything was going great. Until our neighbor decided to put up a wall of trees on her property line right up against the cabin. I was baffled. I know I do not have the right to tell her what to do with her property, but it just seemed so disrespectful to complain about the plans we had for the cabin, and then basically put up a wall of trees right next to it. I was not sure if I could really do anything about it, but I was going to try. She was purposefully blocking our view of the beautiful mountain range, all because she did not like our log cabin. Which we made sure that the cabin would not block any views of the mountain for her. So, my husband and I filed an official complaint against the neighbor. It might have been a silly move, but we had just moved here, and I was not going to put up with blatant disrespect from a stranger already. In our complaint, we stated the complaints she had about our cabin, and concluded that the trees put up were a way for her to get spiteful with us. Of course, the court denied the notion and it ruled out in her favor. The trees were in her property line, and even if she wanted to put them there to build a fence or a well, she had the right of creating that privacy for her home. And it was just me being petty, but I decided to find out what kind of trees they were, and plant some of my own. I was able to find out the trees were a type of evergreen, and that many people planted them to create a sense of privacy or security. Go figures, right? So, I had my husband work with the local landscapers, and got a hold of several medium-sized trees. We planted them on the opposite side of the yard to where the cabins were and made sort of a fence out of them. This ended up blocking her view of the adjacent mountain, which of course she was not happy about. Although she complained to my husband, she did not take any further action because there was not much she could do. She had already won in court and done the same thing with making a wall of the trees. So, she just had to sit there and accept it. Karma's a witch, eh? The next story is titled, "Being Told It's My Fault Squirrels Invaded My Attic." 3 months ago, I submitted a repair request to my homeowner association for squirrels who had invaded my attic through the roof. My homeowner association covers the roof, and all outdoor maintenance, including the trees around the neighborhood. 3 weeks went by after submitting the request and I did not hear back from the homeowner association. I emailed the manager and asked for an update. The manager got back to me saying the maintenance guy saw no holes in the roof. I work from home and am here pretty much all the time during business hours and no one came by to ask me to access my roof or let me know that they inspected it. I called their bullshit when the roof was covered in snow, and I could still hear the squirrels running around. Once the snow was gone, someone came out and inspected the roof, without asking me before they got up there, and oddly enough, now there is a hole in the roof. They sent out a roof repair company who patched the hole, without verifying that there weren't any squirrels in the attic. The next day I told them I can hear the squirrels in the attic, but now they can't get out. Roof guy came back out and unplugged the hole. A few weeks go by, and once again I have to email the manager to ask for a status update. Maintenance guy gets back to the manager that he is hiring a wildlife management company to capture the squirrels. Wildlife management company comes out and sets traps for the squirrels. A couple get caught in the traps, but I still hear them in the attic. One was in the trap early in the morning, and I kept checking on it throughout the day. No one came to pick it up. The next day I emailed the manager about it, and it got picked up. Maintenance guy comes by to give me a card and tell me he comes by 3 times a day every day. Yeah right, to check the traps, but to let him know if any get caught. A few days later, I wake up and see one in the trap and let him know. Says he's on his way and 6 hours later he shows up to pick it up. Eventually all the traps are removed, and I haven't heard from anyone for over a week. I asked the maintenance guy what's next, and he said they are going to put traps up on the roof. I asked him about the damage they have caused in my attic, and he said he would need the manager's approval to go into my attic and inspect. Eventually he scheduled to show up and inspect. Today was the inspection, and he brings a 6-foot ladder to climb into a 10-foot tall attic. Doing so, he breaks part of the opening into the attic. I asked him to take pictures, but of course he didn't see anything wrong, so he didn't take any pictures. I asked him about the damages he caused in the attic opening, and he says he will fix them. Takes out his hammer and puts a couple nails in it, when you can still clearly see the damages. At this point I'm literally shaking my head right in front of him. He asks me why, and I tell him that he has never led in this entire thing, and it seems nothing would be getting done if I hadn't kept up with it. I tell him about the damages that he can clearly see in the attic opening. He tells me that the homeowner association is not responsible for rodents, and this isn't normal what he is doing. That he is going out of his way to resolve the issue, and he can't submit his hours for the time I have put in since this isn't covered. I told him the homeowner association is responsible for the roof and the trees, and that I didn't let the squirrels in through my front door and give them access to my attic. This is one of several battles I have had with them since I moved here. If the market wasn't completely destroyed, I'd sell and move somewhere. Thanks for letting me rant and duck HOAs. The next story is titled, $75,000 Homeowner Association Blunder. For 6 years our homeowner association directors have been warned by a real estate agent/homeowner and others to watch out for who had the developer rights and the permits because there was an unfinished area of vacant lots in our homeowner association neighborhood. The homeowner association directors did not heed any warnings, and new homes were built, but nobody brought the drainage infrastructure up to date before all the utilities were put into the ground exactly in the way of where the drainage infrastructure was supposed to go. Now, after some houses have flooded, they realize they have to put in drainage infrastructure. One of the new neighbors also called Florida's Swift Mud and had one of the inspectors come out, who took a lot of pictures and also pointed out that the neighborhood was not up to code. So far, while digging to fix the drainage that was never done, they have cut the cable TV and internet lines, and they cut the natural gas line, while trying to correct the drainage infrastructure that was supposed to be taken care of before the new buildings were built. The certified underground contractors, or someone else, did call 811 and have the lines flagged before they started digging. It's all bothersome because the homeowner association directors told a series of lies covering up the fact that nobody was doing the proper permitting and drainage infrastructure. Perhaps because they were being lied to? Despite being given the documents to prove it, the homeowner association board does not seem to realize that Apparently, the community association manager, CAM, was filling out the water permit behind their backs on behalf of the contractor and/or new owner and not telling anyone on our homeowner association board, if they are to be believed. Since they did the paperwork, the CAM should have known to bring the neighborhood up to code. Since the CAM should have told the homeowner association directors, they also should have known to bring the neighborhood up to code. Bottom line is that it may cost the homeowners $75,000 or so to fix a problem that should have never happened. Even when the homeowners in here try to do the right thing and participate and be heard as best as possible to prevent large financial mistakes, it seems like the wrong thing keeps happening. We can't seem to avoid obvious mistakes. Now the neighborhood is paying the price of perhaps $75,000 for something that would not have cost nearly as much if done at the right time, and probably should not have been the financial responsibility of our community in any event. The story they are giving is that the contractor or owner was responsible and that they formed an LLC and thus they cannot be sued. The homeowner association president has also told people that the Florida developer rights disappeared into thin air. This is noteworthy because our covenants say the developer is supposed to turn things over to the homeowners with all the infrastructure up to date. Although this is just a rant and not a formal question, all comments are welcome. One of the blogs says that homeowner association directors are often amateur volunteers that get taken advantage of by professionals. The next story is titled, Rant. Hey guys, this is a bit of a rant. I joined my homeowner association board because no one wanted to, and I didn't want them wasting money. In November, the board tried to raise dues by 20%. I objected to this because the CC&R state dues can only go up by 10%. This led to an interesting discovery. The homeowner association was really two homeowner association. What happened was the developer finished building homes 3 years ago. The area was originally all condos, but 8 years ago it was split because townhomes were easier to sell. The developer assured the condo owners that there was going to be just one homeowner association. No one ever checked his work. The homeowner association president didn't want to deal with it because he was moving. We were told that everything was in order. 2 years are, one of the newer board members at the time said she was going to review everything because she wanted to make some changes. During the annual meeting last month, he just told everyone about the situation and left the board. So now the new boards have to clean this mess up. This includes the money from both homeowner associations that is all mixed together under the Townhome Homeowner Association. So technically right now the condos don't have any money. The president of the condo board said he would consult an attorney about cleaning up this mess. He must have gotten lost, because he talked to an insurance agent instead. Good news, our insurance covers buildings. He also thinks we don't need to consult an attorney because everything is okay. Speaking of insurance, we realized that townhome owners may be required by mortgage holders to have insurance despite the homeowner association having a blanket policy. I've asked that we send out a survey to find out how many people have their own policy. 2 board members have raised concerns with owners having their own policies because it means that the homeowner association would not be able to control repair projects on townhomes. My favorite issue is the road cleaning. The roads haven't been cleaned in 5+ years. It's all concrete, but they are starting to look black. I've been told that we shouldn't ask if anyone is willing to help clean them, which should cost the homeowner association $0, because if we do then people might not want to pay to repair the fence that has parts down and posts coming out of the ground. They don't want to even look at cleaning anything until fall. That's about all I've got. There are more things, because of course there is, but I just needed to vent that stuff somewhere. The next story is titled, Why does anyone want to live in a homeowner association environment? From what I can gather, homeowner associations are nothing more than egotistical, greedy communities. I have had friends in both homeowner associations and close communities, and I can tell you the close communities have my vote since they help each other out when one needs it compared to homeowner association that fines, liens, forecloses and sells someone else's house. I could not live in a homeowner association environment. I remember my grandmother's community was trying to become a homeowner association and my grandmother refused. The community became one, but since she lived there for so long before it became one, she was not required to become part of it. I remember when visiting her, a guy in a golf cart kept telling me I cannot do this or that in the community, and I clearly remember the look of anger when I told him to duck off and the look he had when I told him my grandmother was not part of their cult. Later found out he was a board member. They could not do anything since she was not part of the homeowner association. I made sure to not go onto anyone else's property, and the other children I played with loved it when I visited my grandmother since her yard was the only one we could play on since there was a no playing on the grass policy. She moved out a couple years ago and she complained to me on how much of a pain it was. It was actually the homeowner association that bought her home so they could fix it to their policy standards, but the whole closing thing did not go smoothly like a normal sale. They kept sending inspectors and such to her home for the last weeks she was there packing and getting ready to move. It was like they knew when she finished clearing out a room, closet and attic space. Sorry for the little rant, I just cannot stand homeowner associations. Had a few friends who were forced to move out of their own homes because of homeowner associations. The last story is entitled Woman Made Racist Comments About Kids on Our Street to Her Neighbor Who Has a Riding Snowblower and is shocked when he doesn't dig her out after a storm. So, the nasty witch across the street screwed herself royally. Our elderly neighbor bought himself a riding snowblower a few years ago and he gives our neighbor's kids rides. He doesn't care what color the kids are, but apparently the nasty witch does, and she said something racist to him. He refused to repeat it to me, about the kids at the end of last winter. He didn't say anything to her. He just stopped saying hello to her and stopped plowing her walkways and driveway. She never said a word about it until today. We had a snowstorm while she was on vacation and it has been cold ever since, so everything is frozen solid. She saw him outside and started yelling at him. He just turned around and went into his house. I wish everyone could have a neighbor just like this at some point in their lives. Thanks for listening.